Welcome to the Landscape Photography Vlogcast, hosted by myself, Tom Peters, aka the Photo Ninja, all the way up north, Paul Thompson Photography, and Struth mate, it's Matt Bishop. We cover all things photography and chat to some of the best photography minds in the business. Put your feet up, the kettle on, and let's jump straight into this week's vlogcast. So, welcome to the podcast, Victoria.
Thank you.
Just so, and I know this is probably the only question that we're going to ask that everyone has to ask is, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're living and what sort of things do you shoot?
Okay. So I am based in British Columbia in Canada, and I've been here for 13 years now. And originally from the UK, as you can tell from my accent probably. I was living in Dorset before that in the UK, living on a small island. And I've been shooting probably for, I don't know, at least 20 plus years. And I've been working professionally for most of the time that I've been in Canada, so for about 13 years now. And I have a huge love for nature and the landscape. I absolutely love that, but I do shoot a wide variety of things. So I shoot weddings and elopements, and I do portrait stuff, and I shoot events, and I do stuff for tourism. So it's a really broad kind of gamut of photography. But the one thing that kind of runs throughout all of my photography, I think, is just my love of the outdoors and nature. And even with my portrait stuff, that's pretty important to me. It kind of, it dictates a lot of how I shoot and stuff as well. But yeah, I think that's kind of me, really.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that in your Instagram, your website's very good. It's all, I was just saying to Paul offline, it's very nature orientated.
Yeah.
Like even like you just said, it's very unusual to see, not unusual, but it's nice to see a landscape photographer like yourself mixing it up on the social platforms all in one place.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of, the idea is that you're not supposed to do that, but
yeah.
I'm never really worried about that. So
No.
I've always felt like, you always hear the stuff that, you should have a very, your feed should look a certain way. And I've always just thought, well, if people don't like this and I lose them, then I lose them. Like I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and I've kind of continued. I've always done that. I do know what people like, and so I might feed them a little bit of that as well to try and keep them hanging in there. But I do pretty much shoot whatever I want, and then try and share whatever I want as well. And I think I've been lucky that, in some ways, that has been the thing that has actually allowed me to kind of do as well as I have done. I think the fact that I have actually just done what I've wanted to do, even though you're not supposed to.
Yeah, it's really refreshing, isn't it? Really refreshing to see, because, as you say, you fed the line that you're not supposed to do that. And the way, well, especially YouTube for us, it's you've got to kind of keep that content coming all the time, and sometimes you forget that to do it for yourself rather than everyone else as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the thing with shooting different stuff means that if you run out of, at the moment I can't really shoot those big grand landscapes because I could leave BC. We're not in an actual lockdown, but the recommendation is that we shouldn't be traveling unless it's essential. And so, if you have got a platform on social media, you don't really want to be promoting the fact that you're traveling places. So, I feel like, I'm not going to travel right now. And so I just shoot whatever's around me. And I'm lucky that, I have got a kind of a following that allows me to do that. But it's difficult for a lot of people if you have, just grand landscapes as your thing, and then you run out of stuff to post. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So could you just explain a little bit about what come first then? Have you always shot, say, if you've been a wedding photographer and then you know what I mean, where you start?
I think I've always been into the arts and stuff, so like visual things have always been really interesting to me, and I studied art history. But then when I lived on the island in the UK, it was only 500 acres, and I lived there for 10 years.
Wow.
So I was in this very small place, and it's a nature reserve, so it was beautiful. And so I would just walk the island pathways, and I would take, my daughter and my dog, and then I started taking my camera, and I would notice how the light would change on the same pathways, weather conditions would affect them. And I think that's when I started really noticing nature in the landscape, and then, trying to photograph it. And I've never really had an agenda. I've always just shot whatever I've found interesting. And then I was lucky that the island was owned by the National Trust, which you guys would know in the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so my first client was the National Trust. I was pretty damn lucky. I lived on this.
Good going.
Yeah, they needed some pictures.
I reckon.
So I was like, I've got some pictures. Have my first client as the National Trust. I was pretty lucky, but I was just, I lived there. I worked for the National Trust as well. They knew that I had images of the island. And so I was lucky to have that. But at the same time, I was photographing my daughter. I was photographing the red squirrels. So I was photographing my dog. I just photograph whatever, a coffee cup with nice steam coming out of it. Whatever I'm interested in, that's what I shoot. And I would always share the kind of landscape and nature stuff online because I lived on the island. So I really didn't have people that I could share it with. So, actually using online platforms was a really natural thing for me, because that way I could learn from other photographers and I could share my stuff and get feedback on it. And so I pretty much kind of learned so much from looking at like DeviantArt at the time and 500px, and then using Facebook and stuff. And then I gradually, people would they see that you can take some kind of a photo and then they want you to take pictures of their kids. So it doesn't really matter what you're shooting. It's just she takes pictures. Can you take pictures? So then, I started shooting family photos, and eventually somebody said, can you shoot my wedding? Which is always a bit scary. But, so I just kind of ended up doing everything. And I found that every type of photography feeds into the other. So, if I know how to use, for example, luminosity masking to do landscapes, if I shoot people in a landscape and I need to use those same techniques, I know how to use them, which many, portrait photographers might not. It might not be their kind of genre. So I just think that everything just overlaps, and I don't put
you can see that in your work. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of let it flow, and I'm lucky, I think, in that the people stuff can generate income, and so I don't have to force my landscape and nature stuff to produce an income. If it does, it's brilliant, but if it doesn't, that's okay, because I know I can make it by doing the people stuff. So that's nice for me. A lot of landscape and nature photographers don't have that option. If that's what they do full time, you've got to do YouTube, you've got to do workshops, you've got to sell prints, or you've got to generate some income somehow, which might, I don't know, but it might force you to have to create, whereas I'm lucky in that I don't have to, because I can just go out and book a bunch of family shoots and make some money. So
yeah, that's really good. It's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting actually that there's not many landscape photographers, full-time landscape photographers that do that, is there?
The only other bloke I know is Zed in the UK. He's the only other guy I know that does it.
Yeah,
he shoots everything.
There's a lot of people that shoot a lot of stuff. They just don't post it though.
Yeah, maybe.
That's true.
I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, I shoot that, but I just don't post it." So they keep it on the down low, and they are shooting stuff. They just don't want to be known for that, and so they don't post it.
Yeah.
Good point. But that's the beautiful thing about your work, is that you're showcasing, well, not just your portrait work, your weddings, your landscapes, everything. And I think it all represents a very similar style regardless of the type of photography. It's recognizable. You know that it's your work, whether it's just a pure landscape or, a couple kissing under a mountain. You can tell from a mile away it's your work.
That's cool. I mean, I don't know how that happens, so I don't recognize that. But if that as long as it's good, it's recognized for the good stuff. Then I'm good. That's shit. That must be. No, thank you. That's really
I think with them being like environmental portraits, it all ties together really nicely as well, eh?
Yeah, and I mean, even when I shoot studio stuff, and I don't really do much of it because I don't really know what I'm doing, but because I'm always trying to learn everything, even with that, like I can't help throwing in a bit of snow in Photoshop. Like I just want it to look like it's outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's I think I've thought about this a bit because I've been in this situation a couple of times recently. So I've had to think about how the hell did I get here and what am I doing? But I think that nature in the landscape is like the theme that runs through everything. So it does get incorporated into every single thing that I do.
Yeah. I think like what you were saying earlier about just trying to be yourself. That shows through, like the fact that you're taking that pressure off yourself and just being yourself. That's what I see in them in all your images, whether it is a picture of your dog, like Matt said. I think that's what shines through. Is that's what ties it all together. It's just you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't. I don't know. I don't really consciously think about it. I do, if I do play the social media game, absolutely.
You have to.
I'm conscious. You do have to. But I'm conscious that if I post something that a lot of people aren't necessarily going to like, I might counter that with something that I know that people will like. So I'll just keep trying to, keep them coming along with me a bit if I can. I know what the audience likes. So, post a bit of that. But if I want to try something different, I'm just going to do it. And if it bombs, then I'm just going to sit with it and hope for the best and just see. And I'm surprised and amazed at how, people are just so happy to see such, just different things. It really goes against everything that I expected. But yeah.
It's not just that, Victoria. It's your content it's always beautiful. It's always top class work. I mean, I don't know many photographers out there. That's probably what attracted me towards your work in the first place, is that on social media, you're constantly pumping out stuff and everything is your best.
Okay.
And I don't think there's many photographers out there that actually put out that quantity of work and having everything so beautiful and refined. I mean,
thank you.
I don't know about you, Paul and Tom, but like for me, for example, sometimes you just, you might have a few sort of months of, you're not feeling very good and stuff, and you might not take your best work, and you kind of feel obliged to put something out there anyway. Otherwise you feel like you're going to be forgotten about, and it's crap when you put it out, and you know what?
I do that. We all do that.
But your work, in my eyes, is one thing I respect about your work. You can tell it's purity. You have a very pure form about taking, these beautiful dramatic scenes, but in a very pure form. I don't think you overdo anything in post-production as much as many other photographers do. And I don't know how you pull out that much stuff constantly, all the time. That's what I say. Like, open your door, because I bet you there's a lake with a mountain behind the back of that door.
Out there. There's a 17-year-old that's just had a shower, probably not looking good. I think if you shoot that variety of stuff, then you do have more content. You just do. Like I could pull through archives of, family shoots and wedding. I've got a lot of stuff that I could pull on, and I do. So I think if you shoot a variety, you have way more stuff. But like last night I was walking the dog and there's some little tiny purple flowers. They're the first flowers I've seen, here without the snow. And, I was shooting them last night, just on the dog walk. So I'll shoot anything. I'll just shoot anything. a lot of the time it's absolute crap and it doesn't see the light of day. But I do shoot so much because I'm constantly, some people go for, if I go for 2 days without shooting something, then it's a very strange situation because I have my camera all the time and I just shoot all sorts of stuff. So.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? Really, is if you're doing that all the time, you're going to have that amount of material to put out. Whereas because we're not full time as well, we kind of struggle a bit more to try and get it out all the time.
Yeah, totally. If you've got a day job, then that's a lot more difficult. I mean, as the days get longer, presumably you guys can get out after work and get out maybe before work and stuff. But yeah, it does make a difference. But I mean, I just walk the dog often, and most people do that. But but you do have to have the time, because if you're in a rush, if you have to walk the dog and then go to work, your brain isn't in the same place as walking the dog and knowing that this dog walk could be 2 hours, whereas you got to do it in 45 minutes to get to work. And so although you may see the same stuff, you might not have I know if I'm rushing, I don't have the chance for my brain to click into what I'm seeing because there just isn't the time. And so I think if you have time, then it does allow for you to just ponder and kind of wander about. And a dog walk can be 2 hours and you might shoot a couple of flowers and, but definitely if you're rushing to do something, it's a whole different thing. Yeah. And then there's that pressure of, if you've only got your weekend off, then, you got to go shoot something. And I think even having that pressure means that you can't necessarily see as well because you've got that
definitely
happening.
Yeah, your clouded judgment before you start, really. I think that's
totally, because you have to produce something, and it's
got to get something done. Got to get
you must achieve something.
I mean, I've done that all weekend. I've been sitting thinking, I've got to get out. I've got to go and get something shot. I've got to go and get a video done because it's the only chance that I'm going to get in it. Before you even start, as you say, you've put pressure on yourself, and it's probably not going to be your best.
Yeah, I know. I totally get that, and and I've always thought that if this, if it becomes too much pressure, then I'm not going to do it. I did try doing a bit of YouTube and just like carrying all the extra stuff. And then, whenever you find something, you're just like, shall I set the camera up now? And maybe I'll shoot this or I won't. But like all of that extra stuff and, turning on the mic and doing all the stuff, and it's a lot of extra work to do.
Well, when you're on YouTube, you're in two mindsets. I've only just discovered it because, like you, Vic, I don't have much experience with it. I've only just recently started doing YouTube. And it is, you have actually got two mindsets and trying to coordinate the two. Okay, I'm trying to focus on a composition, but at the same time, I've got to look good. I've got to get my...
that's why I crash your mind. It's like, holy shit. I don't want to do that.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I have a lot of respect for people that can do YouTube. I really do.
It's hard going.
It is, it is hard going,
It certainly is. But, to be honest, I don't think there's probably only a few channels out there I'd actually comfortably watch in the morning, get up in the morning, have a coffee and enjoy it from the beginning to the end. There's a lot of landscape photography channels out there on YouTube where I just kind of just skip through it to a good part or something. But to actually produce something from the beginning to the end and have quality photos behind the back of it, it can't be easy.
No.
Can't be easy. And all that editing, that's an insane amount of editing. I don't know if you actually saw Vic, probably he might have been one of the 200 people that saw it. I just It's gone well. I just bought out a couple of videos for Japan for Pentax for the release of their new camera, and I was out on field for 5 days, and then I spent a month editing 2 10-minute videos. It's a crazy amount of time to edit videos properly. There's so much work into it.
It certainly is. Yeah, or you just do what I do and just say this is real life, and you just shoot everything.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that can be really good too. Like, yeah. Totally.
Yeah, it's all pressure we put on ourselves, though, eh? It's
yeah, definitely. We still enjoy it. That's the main thing.
It's I definitely enjoy what I do. But it is always a toss up between getting something and having to get something and doing something that I want to do. If you know what I mean. Sometimes. Yeah. And like you said, Matt, it's I've definitely put images up there that I'm not 100% happy with, but I've made it aware that in the videos or whatever I've done that it's not quite worked out, and then moved on, because otherwise you wouldn't have anything to put up.
Yeah.
But that's what photography is, though, isn't it? Except in Victoria's case, where it always comes out perfect.
Yeah.
It doesn't. There's so much of it. But no, I mean, I think people need to see the failures too, because it happens so much, You do go out, and I think it's good to. I do watch a few YouTube things, but I still haven't kind of got my head around what makes some of them more successful than others yet. I haven't really thought about it too much.
Yeah,
when you find out, let me know.
I if you find out, maybe I'll try again.
Yeah.
I think being honest has got to be good. Like, if people feel like they're seeing somebody who's genuine, then that has to be
for sure.
And I know when I watch, people that I feel like are being genuine, then that always feels a lot better.
Yeah.
That's what people want to see, is honesty, isn't it?
Because otherwise you turn on the BBC or whatever and watch, like you want to see that rawness, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Yeah, I think people can relate to honesty, can't they?
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, if you want to watch something that's quite far-fetched and very polished, and go and stick on National Geographic, it's like a different thing. That's how I approach it anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I find. Yeah, totally.
So do you?
Oh, sorry. Go. No, go, Tom. Go, mate.
I was just going to say, do you enjoy the social media side of your business? I think it's a big part of your business, I suppose.
It is, actually. I use social media as my main form of actually, getting work and getting, if I want to work with a brand or whatever, I do, social media is really quite big for me. And I don't tend to put myself on social media. I don't want to be out there. I don't want to see this. I don't want to be in front of the camera. So I do use like my dog as a way to kind of get people to connect with me without me actually having to be there. I mean, I really don't have a problem with it. There are some days when I do feel a bit pissed off with it and I don't want to necessarily see it, and I'll just post and kind of leave it. But for the most part, I don't have an issue. I like interacting with people, and I feel like if you're going to use social media, then it is social media. Like you are supposed to interact, and if you don't, it's not going to work for you in the same way. No. So you have to be prepared to do that. But I think you need to have, like I don't have my notifications turned on. So if people are messaging me on Instagram, whatever, I don't know unless I check. I think you have to have some personal boundaries so that you're not constantly obsessed with it. But at the same time, I could be sitting in an office doing something, and sometimes I'm out with my phone and I'm using my social media, but I'm out, I'm out in the woods and I'm doing my business, and I feel very lucky to be able to be out there doing it with my phone rather than sitting in an office.
Yeah, definitely.
And I could be going down to the newspaper to put an advert in or whatever, but I'm not. I'm using my social media. So I think on the one hand, I feel as long as you have those personal boundaries of, not constantly being pinged back onto it, then it can work really well. But you just have to also not, post stuff and know that not everybody's going to like it, and try not to feel down about it. And I think also if you post stuff, you have to expect that some people are going to say things that you don't necessarily want to hear.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to think about how do you handle that? And are you just going to delete them and block them, or are you going to let them say what they, because people look at how you handle that too. So if you lose your shit because somebody says something, your potential clients are then making judgments about you as well. So
but Vicky, the more you get of that just means you're getting more popular. I look at it as a good sign when people start sending you abusive emails or comments. That's when you're getting somewhere.
You've made it then, don't you?
Yeah, you just got a load of jealous people. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't worry me at all, quite honestly. I very rarely see something, and I usually let it just sit there. If somebody says something awful, I just let it sit there. I just think that's fine. Other people can read that and think you're an arse if they want. I'm just going to leave it. So, unless it was something. The only time I don't is if I've photographed somebody else and somebody makes comments about them. I did a shoot with a young girl one time, and she wasn't a professional model, and I monitored that post, and I turned the commenting off at night when I couldn't sit on it, because I didn't want her to read stuff that wasn't very nice. And sometimes people do write that stuff. And so in that situation, I turned the commenting off overnight when I couldn't monitor it, and anything that was not very nice about her, I got rid of, because I just think she's not a professional model. She doesn't, need to read that stuff.
No. So
or anyone for that matter, really.
Yeah, I must admit, I will never understand someone that takes the time to write something, especially when it's like a personal thing. Like, what do they get out of it? I really don't understand.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that people divorce themselves because they're looking at a screen. They forget there's the person behind it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it? They're removed from it. Like, if he was face to face, they probably wouldn't ever say anything.
No, and I think if people that in the same breath, if people take the time to say something nice about your image, or even if it's not very nice, if they've taken the time out of their day to say something, the least you can do is actually reply to that. Because if you don't, I always think of it as if you're walking down the street and someone says, "Oh, that's a nice coat you're wearing," and you just walk past them and say nothing. It's the same. I feel like you should, somebody's taken time to think of something that they want to say, and you should say something back, or at least appreciate it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sure.
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, you must. I'm taking you obviously have lots of comments when you put a post up on Instagram. You must, like I said, if you did have your notifications on, your phone would just be going mental.
I don't have them turned on at all. I mean, and yes, and the thing with social media is it's about interaction, and so things move higher in the algorithm when you interact with it. So if you interact with a post, and that can be you interacting with it or other people interacting with it, then the algorithm pushes it higher.
Yeah.
I tend to, if I'm going to make a post, I tend to try and be available to interact with it for at least a half an hour once I've made it.
100%.
Because I think that helps to kind of push it up in the algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah, I do the same thing with a YouTube video, and I post that. I tend to sort of chuck it around my socials straight after I've uploaded it as well.
Yeah.
And then be, like you said, be ready to pin comments and comment back, and it's a lot to think about, isn't it? When
it is, but if that's your business, it's not that much. think. It's
No, I
just
suppose not.
You make
For
that
sure.
one post, you know, if I make a post today, then I need to be available for half an hour or to an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's my marketing for the day kind of thing. I mean, it could be other things too, but you know, I think if this is your business, then, you know, then be available. That's how I look at it. But
that's a really good attitude to think about social media on that level, I think, because it is your business and you're treating
it. If it is your business, then it's not a bad thing to be available for half an hour, an hour. You know, it's not a big deal. If it's not your business and you're not trying to grow it for a reason, then maybe you don't want to. I don't know. It's
nice to see you. It's nice to hear someone that's really using it to their advantage, whereas a lot of people just moan about it.
Yeah, true.
A lot of pros will just say, "Oh, you know, all the work goes into the image, the planning, and they get the shot they want, and then they just stick it on Instagram, and that's it, and then on to the next one." So it's quite nice to hear you talk about how you utilize it in a positive way. Yeah,
I mean, I do enjoy going backcountry and having a week off. Like, it's so nice when you're not. It's just like, it's so nice to not, to not do it for a bit of time. But at the same time, you know, half an hour a day of actually being available. I mean, I do spend more than that, but I don't think it's that bad because it's my business.
I was just going to ask you, I've just noticed that you're, with regard to your portrait work, the preparation, the props and things that you use into work. I remember once you were putting like a rusty old mattress out in the middle of a lake to get this model laying on a... I wasn't rusty. It was from IKEA. You just bought it. Yeah, the preparation into your portrait work is very, very important. I mean, is that a key role, do you think, to your success with portraits? Do you utilise much lighting or anything, or do you just let it all go natural and whatever happens?
There's not a huge amount of preparation to anything I do, quite honestly, Matt.
Okay.
Like with some of those kind of shots, there's, you know, I'll see something out in nature. So, for example, if there's an area locally that floods in the springtime, and so you get water around the trees. It's actually a campsite, and so I'll probably go check it out with the dog and be like, oh, that looks good, and then try and think of something that maybe I can do with that thing. And so I do quite enjoy, and I tend to do a lot of things over and over again until I feel like I've kind of, you know, I feel comfortable with it. And so I do really, at the moment, I'm still enjoying doing long exposure kind of portrait stuff. So marrying the landscape and portrait thing. And so thinking about, you know, how could I do a long exposure portrait? Is there anything I could use as a prop that would make it different or interesting? So, you know, maybe a step ladder or a chair, or, you know, just trying out a few different things. And, you know, if I have a friend that often is my model for that. And so she might see something online and just say, oh, we could try this. And so there isn't ever a huge amount of organization, because most of what I do, I tend to just see something out in nature and think, oh, let's try, I don't know, let's try some, you know, what could I put in there? You know, it's I guess there is some preparation, but not a massive amount. And it's all pretty much natural light. I have started using a little bit of flash and non-natural light, but I'm not very good at it. I'm just kind of practicing.
Okay. Reflectors, nothing like that.
Sometimes not for my environmental portraits so much, but occasionally I do. But because I think when you do know how to edit with luminosity masks and stuff, it's pretty easy to bring up things in post if you need to. So,
for sure.
You know, you don't actually need the lighting if you know how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't. So
yeah.
Yeah. So again.
Go for it, mate. I just spoke.
I was just going to say, it's not. It's just refreshing to hear someone say you go to the side of a lake and you've got a mountain, you've got a lovely sky, and to hear you say, what can I put in it? it's a nice. I think it's a refreshing way to approach it.
I can't think how else you would though. How else would you approach?
Well, I mean, like, in terms of a model or a portrait, yeah. And
yeah.
Whereas a lot of people would obviously shoot what's in front of them. It's nice to see and look at your images where you're thinking more outside of the box. If I don't know, like to put, you know what I mean, use the box, but you know what I mean. It's it's just nice. It's nice to see that.
Well, it's because we spend more time trying to mask people out of our images rather than trying to put them in there, aren't we?
That's cute. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll know a location, and then there was one I wanted to shoot for a yoga one where I wanted the mountain to kind of disappear. I would have liked to have been on the ocean and just had a minimal kind of nothing behind, but we don't have that here. It's lakes and mountains and stuff. So I waited for it to snow because I wanted the snow to kind of blot out the mountains. So sometimes I'll wait for environmental conditions to be the way I want them to be for a shot. But nothing I do is ever, it's usually pretty local. It's pretty easy. There's nothing that's really, hugely, massively organized or anything. It's usually a friend or somebody local, and it's fairly local. And I think.
Yeah. Is that the same way as you approach your landscape work as well then?
I do. I mean, I feel very lucky to be in Canada with the landscapes that we have. And so moving here and then having access to the Rockies like 5 hours away. And, this time of the year, I start thinking about Vancouver Island and, I want to get in the green stuff and out of the snow. And, I start thinking about moss and that kind of stuff. So I don't have, I'm not going to say no. I did a workshop in Scotland a couple of years ago. Excuse me. So I do like to travel, but Canada is still very new for me, and it's so huge and it's so diverse that I don't feel like I have to go to huge places. And I know that when COVID initially came in, it was, obviously the awful part of the disease and people dying and all that stuff. But, from a photography point of view, it was quite a relief to just have the excuse to not go anywhere and just be local and just be forced like everybody else to make the best of what you have around you. Is not a thing. And it kind of takes me back to my first few years with the camera on Brownsea Island when I had 500 acres for 10 years. And I mean, I could not really get off to shoot, sunset or sunrise anywhere else. I had to pretty much make do with 500 acres. And, and I think when you've had that, when you then move to Canada, it's like, far, and I can go places. So I don't feel like I have to go across the world. I feel like there's loads of stuff here. Right now, I do kind of feel a bit itchy. Like I'd like to go somewhere.
Have a pork pie or something like that.
Yeah, and a pork pie. But like
good.
2 hours away would be really nice right now. I'd quite like to go a bit distance, and I did miss going into the Rockies this winter. I love going in into the mountains in the winter, and I didn't go because it's out of province and stuff with the COVID thing. But so Paul, are you now in the UK then, or full time? Were you in Canada before? No,
Adam's a good mate of mine, so I just went across. For a week or so.
Oh, I thought you were living in Canada.
No.
Oh.
When he comes here, we go and have a bit of a travel around and go a few places. But no, I just visited. It was
okay.
Awesome place though, Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
Lovely with the old growth forests and everything. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually near the Lake District.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice up there.
So I'm in a pretty good place at the minute because I'm kind of sandwiched between the Lake District and then the Northumberland coast. like Bamborough and all of that on the Northumberland coast, and then the Scottish border's only about 5 miles away. So,
you're pretty lucky then.
Yeah, when we can travel.
Yeah. You can start to, can't you now?
Yeah, from the 12th we can start to travel further afield and stay overnight, I think, so that should be good.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be something. That'd be unusual, wouldn't it? We can actually go somewhere.
Where are you from?
I've just recently moved back to Wiltshire.
Okay.
I have been living in Cornwall for about eight years.
Right.
So that's where my photography really sort of kicked in, really. We're back in Wiltshire now, which is also, it's funny because I was originally from here and then I moved and then come back. And I appreciate the countryside so much more now. Mm-hmm. I'm actually looking at stuff. Obviously, I know we've got the camera, so which forces me a little bit, but yeah, it's funny when you get a bit older and you go away and come back, you do appreciate what is in front of you.
And I know I can do that. If I go into the Rockies for a week and I come back here, I see stuff that I don't see normally, and I think that if you go away and come back, I quite like it because really all my family live in Cornwall and my partners live in Wiltshire or Scotland, so. I'm going. I had planned on going backwards and forwards at least once a month. Mainly to take my little girl down to see her grandparents, but I thought, well, I could sort of give Nan and Grandad Willow, and I can go off and do my thing. So, but yeah, obviously that.
Free childcare.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I plan on doing on the 12th.
I like that.
Yeah, that's it. But then when I come back here, I'm sure I'll see things that I forgot about.
What's your local stuff then? What have you got locally?
It's all woodlands, really.
Right.
We do have. It's all rolling green hills and barns and farmland. So there is a lot there. I have struggled since being back. I'm so used to walking down to the beach and shooting, I don't know, anything, a wave or a long exposure or something a bit arty, railings, things like that.
Yeah.
I find that more natural, comes to me more naturally. But since being back here, I've been forced to sort of utilise the woods, which I really enjoyed, actually.
I've been very jealous of the British woodland stuff that I've been seeing on social media. I do miss the British woodland a lot. Where I am here, it's pretty much like pine trees and no mist and fog. Like there's no atmospherics for most of the time.
There's a very big British scene at the moment, isn't there? In woodland photography, and there's some photographers out there doing some amazing, unique stuff. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. What you're talking about, Victoria. You said on a photographic level, you felt somewhat a relief that you had to sort of stay. Well, in Canada, if you were living in, I don't know, Zimbabwe or something, you might not feel the same relief.
Right, exactly.
But although it actually might be good for landscape photography there. I don't know. I just said it as a name. And I think that's good because it actually gives us a bit of identity too. But too many of us are just, 1 week you see, Joe Smith and he's in Iceland. The weekend after he's in the Dolomites. The weekend after he's in Canada, and then he's in the Lake District. And it just seems like people were just chasing everyone else. Does that make any sense? Do you feel that at all? Like now we're forced to stay at home, when we can get out, photographers are forming a bit more of identity now about actually who they are in their local area.
I wonder if when we look back on this, whether it's going to have had a major impact on the way that we see and the way that we shoot. I mean, I think if you are forced to stay in one area, you're going to have to start looking in a different way. And when you are released out into the wherever you want to go, is that going to make a difference to how, will we see more kind of intimate scenes or slightly less of the trophy shots. Like, I don't know.
That's right.
I certainly feel like once I can get out there, I don't want to necessarily, I definitely want to shoot more than the trophy images. I want to get something. I mean, I'm always trying to get something a bit different, but I think I'll definitely be keeping this period of my life in mind for my future landscape photography, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I never really thought of that, actually, man. That's quite a good point about being more individual in our areas. I didn't really think of that. I didn't think of it like that, actually, but that's quite a good...
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of photographers out there, big-name photographers too, that live in areas that you can't really photograph in. And, very big-name photographers that travel and do workshops all the time, and they've just disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's sad. On that level, it's sad. But, for who, is lucky enough to have something to shoot close by, we're pretty lucky, aren't we?
Pretty much, really. You don't.
I've got to travel a good hour out of Rome to find wildlife, to find any form of natural landscape. Otherwise, I'd just go into the city and shoot cement, but I can't do it. Maybe you might like it, Victoria, because you shoot everything.
I would actually. I wouldn't mind having a go, but I wouldn't want to. I definitely would not. I've done a bit of city living, and I'm very happy that I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah,
I would definitely shoot some of it, but I wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to be locked down in a city. No way.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. If you're in the countryside, it's a complete different feeling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Totally, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like my parents, they would never know it existed, the coronavirus. Lucky people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make a big difference, I think. Sure.
So if you had, I don't know, a spare 2 days, where would you get excited about? What would you be thinking about doing, photography wise? Where do you thinking about going or shooting?
Well, right now, I think if I could, I have got the time. I just can't really go too far. But
I suppose thinking not in a normal situation. Yeah.
Probably right now, I just want to head towards Vancouver Island, I think, just because we are just coming out of the snow here. So our landscape is it's a bit shitty looking, like things are brown and
muddy.
There's nothing really blooming yet, but there isn't really any decent snow either. So we're just in that horrible kind of in between.
Yeah.
And so I would head west, I think, and towards the ocean, and I'd quite like to get into a bit of rainforest stuff and see some cherry blossom as I drive past Vancouver. I'd be good with that. Yeah, I definitely, when spring comes, I just want to see a bit of, I'm not hugely into flowers, but right now I want to see some flowers.
Yeah.
Something that's kind of colourful or some green moss or something like that.
Yeah.
Something vibrant.
Where would you go if you could go? Places.
Scotland, I think, for me. I would love to get back up into Scotland.
Yeah,
for me,
that is
definitely.
beautiful. Because when I lived in the UK, I only went to Scotland, I think, once or twice. And I think when you move to Canada and the distances are so huge, and I think, why didn't I go to Scotland?
Yeah.
So then co-leading a workshop to Scotland, it was just beautiful. Yeah,
it's stunning up there. It really is, and my opinion, it's about the nearest thing we've got to wilderness really now. Really in the UK, I would say. Anyway, parts of Wales, I suppose, but mainly Scotland. I would say has got the most sort of wilderness 100%. Areas. Yeah.
It's like for me, see, I'd go straight to the beach, one of the reasons why I like getting up for sunrise is because I get to myself. That wilderness element's never really been there for me in my photography. Like Paul said, I've never really had that wilderness sort of feeling. I've always sort of created it myself by being the first one there. wilderness would be. I kind of like said, like Paul said, to only have one area in the UK really where it is, you could say it is wilderness. It's no wonder there's so many people go there every year.
Yeah, like we're saying too, there's parts of Snowdonia too that are quite wild, aren't they?
Yeah,
definitely.
Definitely less photographed than Glencoe or Isle of Skye.
There's lots of places in Scotland that aren't photographed though, and it's just for that reason that they're not honeypot locations. I think that's it though. So there's plenty to go at. It's just having the bottle to go and photograph something different, really. Get out there.
That probably comes down again to the lack of time. Probably if you're working a full-time job.
Yeah, definitely.
And only having maybe 2 weeks in which to make the best of your 2 weeks. That must be a big factor, which I'm lucky that I don't have to deal with. But
because you kind of have to rely on having that dedicated time to go and make the most images possible, if you know what I mean.
But I think it all comes down to what you are shooting for at the end of the day, because if you're only shooting for yourself, then that doesn't matter. But if you are doing it from a commercial point of view, or you're trying to grow something, then it does, those things do come into play, and you do have to think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely different.
Did you when you stepped into photography on a full-time role, were you juggling another job beforehand, or how did you sort of...
Yeah, because I've only been full-time with photography for, I think, 4 years now.
Okay.
So I was working, I worked in an animal shelter as well for a lot of the time that I've been in Canada. And I wasn't full-time. I would do that 3 days a week, and then so I still had some time. But then I got to the point where I realized that I could ditch that job and just do one extra elopement a month, and I could cover what I was making. So I've never really, we've never had a lot of money, and it's never been a big thing. I don't feel like I need a lot of money, because the things I want to do don't really take a lot of money. We've got a van now, so I can just drive off and go stay somewhere for a couple of nights, and it costs me nothing, just the gas, take my own food. And I've never really needed a lot of money. And I'm lucky that I'm a Nikon ambassador now, so I do get some equipment. So all
does
the
make a
things that I would
difference.
spend the money on, so things like camera equipment, and I'm lucky to have some relationships with brands now, so that the money that I would have spent, I don't need to spend. So, that really helps for sure.
How you find your work now that you're an ambassador? Has it affected at all how that you work? Do you still shoot the way you want to? Do you feel somewhat pressured or obliged to answer to that brand in any way? Or
I feel like I probably shouldn't swear a lot, which is very difficult for me. Things like that, I would normally probably swear a lot more. Things like that, I feel like I have to be a bit more careful. But other than that, I feel lucky in that I have more access to lenses and things, so I can try different things. I'm actually feeling like I want to try some wildlife photography, and I could borrow some longer lenses and try doing that. I feel like I've actually got more space, and Nikon have been excellent. They have not asked anything of me in any respect. They're just just do your thing, So no, I feel really lucky, and I don't feel like, obviously I don't want to pump out a load of crap if I can help it, but nobody's putting any pressure on me. They're just I'm not asked to do anything really. I have a few speaking engagements a year, and that's difficult for me because I don't like that kind of thing. But so that's, I remember when I was first asked to speak for Nikon, and it public speaking is my absolute nemesis. It's my worst fear. I weighed it up, and I was like, I was going to fly to Toronto, to meet these Nikon people and then speak for them. And it was the most horrible thing I could possibly think of. And then I thought, well, do you want to do this? Or do you want to go to, I don't know, Iceland and do, I was trying to think of something I would really love to do. And I thought, actually, I really want to work with Nikon. So I was like, I'm going to have to do this. Yeah. And so I just have forced myself into these horrible situations but I feel like that's because public speaking is my nemesis. When I was at university, I would go sick rather than give my seminars and stuff. Yeah. I feel like I'm being forced to actually face the thing that I've hated for the most of my life. And that can't be a bad thing because it is getting easier. Yeah. So, yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Well, that can only be
you've always shot with Nikon, have you? Or
yeah, I have. I was given a Nikon for my 18th birthday, and I've shot with a Nikon ever since, or a Nikon. I used to call it Nikon.
Nikon, yeah.
Oh, he's changed. Yeah.
So is it a Z or a Z?
Well, that's the thing. Like, to me, it's naturally a Z, but I even now I call it a Z sometimes. It's really,
How have you felt going from? I presume you used a D850 beforehand, and now you've moved on to the Z6 and the Z7. Yeah.
Well, when I started my ambassadorship, I had a D4, which I was using for my weddings and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then I had a D800, and so those are my two cameras. So then when I got the ambassadorship, I borrowed the 850, and I was just like, oh, I love this. So then, of course, I bought the 850. And then the Z system came out. And although I kind of wanted to try mirrorless, I loved the 850 so much. I was just like, I don't really want that. Yeah. But then they lent me one. And so I got kind of hooked in. And it was actually the lenses that really, I had that 14 to 30 f4 lens. And it's so good. And I just... when it came to giving it back after 6 months, I actually then thought, shit, I just can't. I can't part with that lens, and I actually really enjoy this system. So now I've hardly used my 850. I'll probably sell it.
Wow.
Because I'm now.
How are you finding it with portraits and that sort of stuff? Using your EVF rather than your OVF.
I'm not very technical. What is that?
Sorry. Electrical viewfinder and optical viewfinder. Okay. I mean, you're using I find it really good. I like being able to see what you can actually see. Okay. So, I like being able to see. You kind of get that feeling if it's a little bit blurry or whatever. You can see it in the camera, which is good. I have actually completely. Gone over to the mirrorless system now, and the weight is so nice. Being able, I just put my I've got my, which one's this one? This is my Z7. So just like this in a little bum bag, just to go out and walk the dog. I could never do that before, but to be able to carry something that small, it's like having your phone, and so I can always just shoot anything. And I love the fact that I'm not carrying loads of gear.
Yeah.
So it is, I think the mirrorless system has really meant that photography has become something that I will do on a daily basis rather than thinking I'm going out to do photography. I just go out and the camera comes with me.
Yeah. My partner hates mirrorless.
Really?
Because I'm looking for that sucker every time I go out.
Right.
Every time I'm going to Asda food shopping, and I got it over. She's going, don't take the camera with you.
Oh, I thought it was because she would shoot.
Yeah, we go out for a walk with Willow, and and she said, leave the camera at home. Yeah. Whereas before I wouldn't have bothered.
It's a problem when you have a family and you're obsessive about photography. That's a problem. I've had that problem for years. I'm lucky I'm still married, really.
We went on a beach. We went on a beach holiday about 3 years ago, and I didn't bring my camera with me. When I went for 2 weeks, my wife said, "I'm so proud of you." And you know what? There was a thunderstorm that lasted for about 3 days right on the beach. Yeah, and it was one of the best thunderstorms I've ever seen. It didn't stop for 3 days.
Could you shoot it? No, you couldn't shoot it.
No. All of the iPhone.
My husband knows me better than he knows that I would just be. I am getting better at sometimes not shooting and just enjoying, and you've got to get to that point. But it is very, very hard if you love this thing that you do, and there's like that. Yeah, that would be really tough.
Yeah, I can't go out for a walk without taking a camera with me now.
No, it does become this terrible thing and I actually do dream in f-stops. I do dream, and I'll be thinking like 2.8, and like I'm actually thinking about what the depth of field would be and how it would look best. It's really bad, and it's not that much of an obsession.
Is it bad, or is it actually a good thing? Like sometimes, I
think it depends if you have a family. Like if you have a kid and stuff, sometimes it's bad, like to be that obsessive about one thing.
Yeah.
I feel as a mother, I feel quite guilty because I am obsessed with photography. But sometimes, there's lots of things that photography has got me through so many things, though, because I have that obsession that other things don't matter in the same way, for sure.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Well, this morning I planned to go out and do a video because I've got nothing for next week. And Willow was there with a Easter, eating chocolate for breakfast, and we sat on the sofa and watched Peppa Pig, and I thought, I could quite actually just stay here, really.
Yeah.
I looked out the window and it was grey and horrible, and I didn't bother going out in the end.
But I actually think that's good to not. Like, I think if you have to really force yourself, then maybe you just shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then sometimes people just stay in and they think about how awful the weather is and how bad things look out through that window, so they don't go. But when you have a dog and you have to go, you go. And sometimes you get out there and there is really cool stuff, and you're glad that you've gone. But then sometimes I haven't shot a sunrise, and I can't think, like, this is really abnormal for me. I just have not shot a sunrise in, I don't know, at least a month or possibly more than that, just because I haven't felt like it. I don't care. I'm just kind of like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. No, that's good. At least when you do go out, you're in the right, like you said, like you were talking about earlier, you're in the right mindset, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes you just, if it doesn't feel like you should do it, then maybe don't do it.
Yeah.
But also, on the other hand, if you don't sit there inside all the time thinking, like, I don't know, or just thinking, it's not right out there. It's not, oh no, that's not right. Because it might be. It just.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think in them situations, you just know, don't you? When the photographer kicks in, you think, oh yeah, if I don't go, I'm going to regret it.
And sometimes I don't know, and I just do go because I have to go with the dog. And then I'm like, oh, look at this. Like if I had gone out, I did that the other morning. I was out really early to meet a girl to go for a snowshoe, to go for like a hike and stuff. And she wanted to meet me in another town at 7 a.m. And I was like, whoa, I've not seen this time of the morning for a while. But I was driving along. There was this beautiful mist. And then there was a bit of, sunrise light in the sky. And I didn't shoot it, but I was just like, this is beautiful. Why have I not been, why have I not been getting up earlier and going and having a look at this stuff? Because there's some beautiful. And then when I would have been going out, it would have probably no mist would have been left. It would all have been kind of a bit blah, but
I don't think you ever regret going out though, do you? If you go out, you always come back with something. I've always found it. I've never come home and said that was just a crap shoot. Like maybe when you first start out, because you have certain expectations. When you in the very beginning of photography, you go and you say you want that pink sunrise or whatever, but the longer you've been doing it for, you know that if the conditions aren't the way that you visualise them to be, you just say, okay, just shoot something else. But do you ever go home and just say, nah, that was horrible?
No. Well, I mean, sometimes I don't shoot, but I think that you build a bank of stuff in your head. So I think when you go out, even if I don't, like I might just go out and nothing will appeal to me, but I'll think, well, if I can back here in the fall when there was a morning mist and the sun was coming from that direction, this could be really cool. And so you're constantly building like a bank of, and also, you know, when you shoot like portraits and stuff too, if I have a client and they want to shoot at, you know, 10 in the morning or something, I know where the sun will be in certain place. If I want backlight, if I want this, if I, you know, I know in November in the woods near my house around 10:30, I'm going to get backlight through this pathway on the woods. So there's a great go-to spot for, you know, a portrait shoot. But all of this stuff, even if you're not shooting, it's adding to that bank of knowledge in your head of where to go if something happens, or, you know, if the conditions are right, or, you know, whatever. So I don't think it's ever a waste of time. And also you're just out in nature. It can't ever be.
No, that's always a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly is.
Right, we can't go without talking about, is it Jack, your dog?
Yes.
Yeah. I had noticed his Instagram feed.
Yeah.
It's depressing when a dog's got more followers than I have.
I know, that's what I was just thinking.
Come here. Come here.
Oh,
mate.
like something big and white.
Yeah.
It's my boy. Oh, sorry. Just smashed the camera. Yeah. Isn't it great taking the dog out when you go photographing? It's just the most beautiful. They just sit next to you and just love watching you take photos. Do you have that feeling? You know, they're just happy just to lay next to your tripod and you're firing away, and it's a great thing to do together with an animal, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean it wasn't like that for the longest time because Jack is a huge handful. So he has a really strong prey drive and stuff. So if he sees a squirrel or a deer or something, he's gone. So he's never off leash, and he's very strong. So he'd pull me over on my face. If I wanted to stop, he'd jump on me, like biting me, not in a horrible way, but like a puppy covered in blood. My coat is ripped to shreds. Like, it was not an easy thing. But now he's 4, and the last kind of year and a half, 2 years has actually been pretty good. And he actually, like, I get my camera and he sits and he knows that we're just going to chill. And yeah, it's really nice. And especially in Canada here with bears and different wildlife around, having a dog that knows that there's things there.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice thing. And anyway, you know, quite often on my own, if I'm out, you know, pre-dawn or whatever in the dark, and you meet somebody on the trail that you feel a little bit, uncomfortable, he is just the perfect companion because nobody's going to mess with you with him there.
No.
Yeah. I mean, he's it's just great. Yeah. And you know, somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think often when you go with someone else, you always feel like you have to, you know, do they want to stop, or, you know, is this a bit too long for them, or are they interested in shooting the same thing or whatever. But when you go with a dog, it's great.
Yeah.
They don't care.
He certainly suits the lens anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's a handy model if you need one. Yeah.
Yeah. He certainly looks pretty.
Content, he's right on hand.
Where did the idea come? Sorry, mate.
No, don't be sorry, mate. Go for it.
Just to say, where did the idea come? I know, like you said before, you like taking pictures. You take pictures of anything, but actually taking on the extra work of another page as such.
Loads of people have pages for their dogs, but from a business point of view, that's a whole extra 30,000 people that I could drive in my direction. So from that point of view, you know, it's it can be handy because that's an additional audience who might otherwise never find you. So I mean, I didn't really think of that when I was doing it. It wasn't a conscious decision, but it's certainly not a bad marketing strategy. And like I said before, I don't really want to put myself out there particularly, but I'm quite happy to share stuff about him. He is, I don't want to be on camera, but he can be on camera. So it's a good way, because I think, social media is about connecting with people. And so if that connection happens through the dog, then that's perfect. And it means I don't have to put my face out there, which is good.
Yeah, definitely.
No, you're not supposed to say that.
It's all right.
But that's okay, Tom.
Oh dear. I put my foot in it anyway. I was going to say, if Jack wants to, someone to collaborate with, then just get him to send me a message.
What do you want to
collaborate? He's quite expensive though, but he is a collaboration.
Especially now, mate.
Yeah, I know. You'll have to book it in your name, mate. Book it in your name. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Victoria. It's been a real blast chatting to you, and very interesting conversation. And we'll make sure we put all your links and everything down in the show notes down below. So unless Matt or Paul, you want to answer anything else?
Oh, that's all good. That's all good. Where's the best place to find you on your social media then?
Instagram is Victoria Haacck, and then Facebook is Victoria Haacck Photography. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me on, and thank you.
No worries, yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Vic. It's been great.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I don't mind if you just ask you one question, just as a sort of a leaving note. I think it's always nice for other people to hear. When you first started at photography, did you have someone you aspired to as a photographer? And today, is there someone, after the 20 or so years of experience as a photographer, is there someone that you aspire to now that's different?
Yeah, there isn't one photographer or one artist. Excuse me. There's a whole bunch of photographers and artists, really, and it's an ever-changing thing. And I don't know. I'm constantly finding, people complain about places like Instagram and say it's all the same, and there's some fantastic photographers and artists out there. You just have to dig a bit deeper, and they don't shout necessarily as loudly. But there's some really beautiful work out there, and some unassuming people that are not making a lot of noise but producing fantastic work. And so there's lots of, I can't actually think of one photographer, but there's a whole lot of people that I find inspiring, and I do look at a lot of other photographers' work and a lot of the ways that they are in the world as well. So there's a lot of inspiring people out there.
It's a shame they don't have more of a voice, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, there's that, if you look for those quiet voices, they're there, and they have a lot to say in their own quiet way. You just have to dig them out and find them. But it's a shame that you do see a lot of similar types of photographers out there that are popular, and that's the nature of the platform. It's that fast swiping thing. If it doesn't shout and it's not immediately,
exactly,
if it takes a bit of time to kind of get into the image, then maybe it's not as immediately engaging. But there's a lot of really good stuff out there. It just doesn't work well with that.
No,
definitely not. No.
If you're watching this, then I assume you're someone who is passionate about both photography and the natural world. Over the last decade, I'm sure you've seen the incredible growth in photography. Everyone has a camera these days, and everyone wants a beautiful nature photo to share with the world. Unfortunately, The passion to capture that image often overrides thoughtfulness. Wildflower fields are being trampled and destroyed. Delicate, unknown locations are being widely advertised, bringing crowds of people, transforming wild places into urban spaces. Regulations, private property, and the well-being of wildlife are ignored in the pursuit of an image for Instagram. If such things weigh heavily on you, consider joining Nature First, the movement for responsible nature photography. This is a global initiative to help recover the role of nature photographers as caretakers and ambassadors of the natural world. There are no membership fees, no ads, no gimmicks, just an opportunity to be part of this global initiative of nature photographers dedicated to caring for the natural world. You can learn more at naturefirstphotography.org.